Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Ollie, it's such a pleasure to have you here,
Thank you
and
so much.
welcome to the stream. And it's super fun using this software here to stream since we're gonna be talking about no code and tools. And we were like in a waiting room with the music, and then you're vibing, and suddenly it drops you off, and like okay, time to chat. Ollie, why don't you introduce yourself? Who is Ollie, right? This is an opportunity to tell the world.
Oh my God, that's an existential question to start with.
It
Who am I?
is.
Why am I?
Why?
I'm Ollie Littlejohn. I'm VP of R&D at a company called CodeBase, based in Scotland. I realize I can actually evidence that I'm in Scotland. Hopefully, you can see Edinburgh Castle out the window.
Wow,
I'm in
that's
this.
amazing.
I'm in like the ugliest office block in Edinburgh, but it's got the most beautiful view. So yeah.
That's what
CodeBase
counts.
is the company that I work for, and we've been going for about 11, 12 years now. And we started out as just this building, like supporting startups by providing cheap co-working space. Think like like WeWork, but actually with community. We're just like focused on like supporting like SaaS product companies. Like we're finding cheap space to hang out and running events and meetups and creating connection and all of that. And over the last 10 years or so, this company has grown quite a lot, and we can maybe come back to that. To the point where we provide, so we don't just provide space anymore, and we do have a bunch of spaces across all of Scotland, but we provide a huge mentorship network of like one-on-one support for startups. We run programs for companies, from every stage, be it like a cohort-based thing or a self-directed program. We do it in loads of different sectors. So like we work with the Ministry of Justice here in the UK to do law tech related things. We work with Barclays, the bank here, to run programs across every different industry vertical you can imagine, but all of it with like tech at the core. So software is the thing that we're focused on. And yeah, I started out as community manager at CodeBase. My
Yeah.
community is kind of my background, and my job was just to kind of get people talking to each other. But it was a little startup, and I kind of did everything from running our programs, running our partnerships, to kind of painting the walls and like chasing mice out of the building and things like that. And now my job is like weirdly, I've kind of ended up in charge of building our software product, which is kind of why I'm here today, which is kind of a new direction for us.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you built like an entire ecosystem for startups and businesses, and so you've been with them for how long?
So 11 or 12 years, but I took a 2-year break. I actually I got stolen away, and I joined a no-code company, Stacker, for a year and a half as their community manager, and I loved it so much there. But I came back eventually. They made it very
So
tempting.
I see it. I see it clearly now. There's two versions of Ollie, right? There's like the code based Ollie and the no code Ollie, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
fair to say it?
Yeah, I like to imagine that there's a version of myself. I have 2 children and a family and like a life outside of these things as well. But I think for the purposes of the webinar, like those are the two versions of me that are probably most interesting.
No, I understand. I understand 100%. My daughter is screaming her lungs out on the other room, and I'm like, please let not our users hear her. But that's
I
my
can't
other
say.
life that we're trying not to talk about.
Yeah.
That's
I know that
amazing.
world very
So
well.
yeah, yeah. And so Codebase, you went from the community guy. I think you didn't. I imagine you did such an excellent job because you started connecting people, and now it grew like it is bigger than yourself right now. And now you're in charge of creating products, right? Basically.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how has that search gone? Because since I mentioned you're also the no code guy, so for anyone who's wondering why I'm saying that, Ollie's also runs a no code Scot, right? Which is a small community for Scottish no code developers, right? So always like being surrounded by people and connecting people. That's awesome. I real recognize real basically, and
Yeah. Thank you.
the thing is, one question that comes to my head is that you've had a lot of time to develop a relationship with certain tools,
Mhm.
and why are you using WeWeb? Why did it caught your eye basically?
So it's a good question, because my no code background is I'm not a software engineer. I listened to a podcast that I was producing about no code, and I was like, this sounds too good to be true, and I thought I'd like just try playing around with some of these tools. And this was actually during like COVID, and my first daughter had just been born, and I was like awake all night with her because she just wouldn't sleep, and I just sat there in front of my computer like playing around with Bubble for like hours, and I was like, oh my god, I can like build software now with this like screaming little creature on my chest. And I built like 2 SaaS apps with Bubble, took them to market, and like community-based SaaS apps, and one of them even had a customer, so I mean, check me out.
Even had a customer. Amazing.
One customer, yeah, I know. But yeah, I got really like deeply into Bubble. I do think Bubble is great for a bunch of reasons. But then like I started running the community here in Scotland, the local meetups, I just started hearing from more people using different tools. Like I've built, I guess I would say I've built meaningful apps, stuff that's actually gone live and had users with like, so not just Bubble, but with, Softer. I built millions of tools with Stacker, obviously, while I was there. I built stuff with Glide, Webflow, and then it's like Squarespace and a bunch of those. So, and I've played around with like a bunch of the other ones, and so I have a good feeling for like the sort of the app builder or like and the website builder kind of ecosystem. And I think it was actually one of the. Hello.
Yeah, you drop off for
back?
1 second.
We're
back.
Okay, all good. Yeah, so I don't know where I got cut off there, but basically, I saw, I think it was a tweet by a guy who was a Stacker expert, and now I think he is a WeWeb person as well. But a guy called Wes, and I can't remember his surname, but he basically tweeted something about like WeWeb and Xano. He just had like a really good feeling about these tools like coming together to be like the future of how like web development happens. And that's the thing. I remember that when I was like, oh, what's WeWeb? I've never heard of it. And I went and just kind of played around with it. And I actually, because CodeBase, we're not a big company, but we're not a small company. We have like governance and like, processes to go through to like bring in new software. I had to basically. I am sorry. I don't know if this is my Wi-Fi, but hopefully it's fine. Okay, if it isn't, I'll swap to our other Wi-Fi. But if it happens one more time, I'll switch over. Okay. But
no problem.
I built this report. Like, here are all of the no-code tools in the landscape that I know, and there was a bunch of like criteria that I had of so external databases was the main thing. I wanted to be able to hook this up. At the time, we had a SQL database on AWS, and I'm not a software engineer, so I'm like, it makes me nervous even talking about that kind of stuff. But I needed to have a tool that could access our existing AWS database at CodeBase. So that immediately gets rid of like a bunch of them, which work off things like Airtable or whatever. I wanted to have like really fine control over the interface. Like I didn't want to use like one of the no-code builders, like where it's like, it just makes the interface for you. Which I think is a really powerful thing for these things to do, and it's good in the right use cases. But I knew I wanted to have like really granular control over like how the thing looks, and that's a double-edged sword because I'm not a designer either. So like, the thing I've built is actually quite ugly, I think. But it's like I knew I wanted to not be like locked into a specific design framework kind of thing, and we can bring a designer on, as the thing grows. And yeah, WeWeb just kind of ticked all the boxes for me. It was just like, yeah, I like this, and I started playing around with it. I got sort of pretty quick. I think if you've built with something like Webflow, WeWeb is like quite intuitive, and I was like, I kind of get this, and I had a steep learn. I had to learn quite a lot about even just like databases, how they connect. We've since gone from AWS over to Superbase. But like I didn't know what row level security was like 6 months ago, as a non-software engineer, and now like we've passed like various security audits, like external auditors have come in, like we've got accreditation. It's like I've gone on a learning journey with the software engineers in our company, but yeah, sorry, I'm going off course here, but yeah, I just discovered it. I tried out building a simple app in it, and I was like, this is cool. let's go.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
No, that's amazing. That's a path I took. It was quite similar. Like Webflow, it is a similar tool, and the learning curve is not as steep once you have the fundamentals of web design. That's also one thing that got my attention with WeWeb, which, as you mentioned, because you said you wanted control, like granular control for the interface. So you didn't want like pre-made blocks that they're fine, but they're not very customizable. But you also needed something that you could connect with the things with the backends you were already working with, right? And yeah, that's why basically we would fit that role, right?
For
And
sure.
no, that's awesome. And you said when you were with Stacker, you were building a lot of tools. That's like your entrepreneurial side, and that itch that we have in the back of our ear, right? That we need to experiment, right, and build a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
We have like, I guess I have two small kids, and finding the time to do that is so painful, so like even now, like I organize like hack days every now and then here in Scotland where I can just come and like build stuff, because it's like the only way I can find the space to do that. But you're right, it is an itch, it's like you got to scratch.
It is. I'm starting to run this month. I was running an event inside of WeWeb that's called Clone and Chill, where we just basically sit down and then we chill and we try to build something together with WeWeb, because I wanted to incentivize the fact that you could build little tools and things like that. Obviously, besides all of the magic and amazing actual apps with paying clients and solving problems, you can also do these small projects. Anyway, I am the one going off tangent right now. So Ollie, and what was the project that made you realize that, okay, it's fine building with these other tools like Bubble, which they are amazing, but now it's time to go one step forward, basically. What was that project that made you think that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of what my whole day job should be or is right now. Around like I built a bunch of little MVPs with various no-code tools like Stacker and Airtable, just to kind of like test out like what problem are we actually trying to solve. But the big project that I'm currently working on just now, which okay for me to talk about this now, is that fine?
Yeah, of course.
Is so basically like when I left CodeBase, I joined Stacker. I had a great time, but when I came back, I actually left CodeBase just like almost like a few days before we were awarded this huge contract by the Scottish government. So like £45 million over a bunch of years to deliver what our services across all of Scotland. So events and meetups and programs, you name it. And while I was away, the company went from like 20 people to like 90 people. Like, so huge amount of growth. I came back and I was like, whoa, our office is a lot bigger, kind of thing. There's so many people in Slack, there's so many GIFs. During that time, we spun up all of these kind of different systems for managing not just that contract, but a bunch of other contracts that came in to like do startup support. So we have like, again, so mentorship and programs and events. And we now do things like we fly entrepreneurs in Scotland out to Silicon Valley twice a year, just to kind of go and soak up the feeling there, and we send them off to Japan, to Singapore. We run some international programs and just a bunch of other kind of features that we've like added on over the years. But what had happened as we had grown so quickly is so many of these like features that people were delivering, they were doing it in isolation from the rest of the company. So we had like HubSpot and we had a database. Like, so underlying all of that, there was kind of two central sources. Can you have two sources of truth? I don't know, but they were both there. But then you had like, so we have like a community platform, Mighty Networks, which I think it's fair to say no one loves, like it's not, it doesn't fit like us, so our users don't like it as well. I'll come back to that in a minute. We run programs, we use Notion, like public Notion pages for programs and for like documentation for the community. We use Eventbrite, Zoom, a bunch of event stack related things. We have for our mentorship, like we had data in like hundreds of different Google Sheets for reporting. Again, Google Sheets galore, like, thousands of Google Sheets, Airtables, you kind of name it. There's this kind of like spectrum of SaaS tools. And I guess I was like, can we take all of these and like replace it with thisiscodebase.com/login? So, for our users, here is the one place you come to get your mentorship notes, to access your course materials, to see what events are coming up and register for those events, find out about the latest international trips that are available to you, and future features to come as well. Like we have like a backlog of cool stuff we can do. For our team, bringing together that like both the internal tooling, because most of this is done on like Google Sheets. Again, there's like no like tools for it, along with like reporting functionality, because we kind of have to do manual reporting. We're government funded, largely, so we have to make sure that we produce like thorough, accurate reporting every month, and that normally involves someone sitting down like looking at a bunch of spreadsheets and making graphs. And so I was like, can we do that? But also, I guess there's a kind of a third use case, which is like we have all of this ecosystem data, this kind of rich data, like for our partners and our customers who are like the Scottish government and the Ministry of Justice. Can we make that kind of accessible to them? Like the reporting side of things is a huge thing of like, rather than us having to send through a PDF every month or so with like stats and things, like can we just make like a dashboard that you log into and just see here's the numbers kind of thing. So kind of three use cases, each of which has like 10 categories beneath it, but ultimately bringing together all of what we deliver into one neat portal is the plan.
Well, yeah. So your thought process was basically the company is growing, 90 people from 20 to 90. Everyone is doing their own thing with their own preferred tool, and which at some point it's fine. But suddenly, when you're thinking about scale or reporting, like you said, like back in my head, I'm thinking that person, that poor responsible person that had to sit down and do all of the reports, they had to go through like how many sheets and different apps to do the report. And now you're like, okay, maybe. Yeah.
Let me just do a shout out to Sean. If you're watching this, Sean, respect, for all the work you do.
It's like, yes, respect, man. I'm sorry, but yeah, respect. And now you thought about it, turn it into like a big portal that could unify all of those truth sources and tools that your team was doing, while at the same time it could be an internal tool but also an external tool that you could present right to your clients, partners. And well, that's you I can imagine that you might have sound crazy for the people working there. Like it's like, hey, I'm Ollie, I'm back again. Why don't we restructure everything from scratch and do this mega build? How did they take it?
Yeah, for sure. I was actually delivering a workshop about building with no code this morning to a group of people, and that was like the big conversation point is like, quite often once you're good at these tools or once you have some experience, building the thing is like easy. It's the getting the buy-in, it's the change management, it's the governance, especially in a larger organization. That's stuff that takes work. And I think I spent like before I even like dug the foundation of this thing, like I spent a good like 6 months to a year when I came back, like getting everyone like on board, like all of the different teams. So like having like our data team, having our operations people, programs, events, blah blah blah. So you have to kind of work with everyone. And like what is quite exciting for me is now it's like it's gone from being this thing that I like annoy people about and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this thing, to like I'm getting like feature requests left, right, center, and I love it. People are like really engaged, and they're like, oh, this is cool, but wouldn't it be even cooler if it could do this? So yeah, it's
that's the turning point, right? You don't need to convince people anymore. Now they come to you like, do you have free time to try this new feature?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's and I think because we support tech startups, I think there's something kind of exciting to people in the company about that, of like we're not a tech startup ourselves, but now we are building a product. We're like a like an SME that is building a product that is for us, potentially for white labeling, reselling in the future, maybe, but for now it's like it's they're excited to go on that journey of like building features and experiencing bugs and like downtime and oh god, everything's on fire. It's like we're all kind of learning.
Wow. Okay. No, that's amazing. What you just said, it's kind of So right now you had a product, right? Like which are all your services and your ecosystem, and you're providing that to all of your partners. But suddenly, like you didn't thought of yourself as I don't know, software developers, right? As developers. But now, like the way you're telling me is like suddenly you starting to realize that creating a new vertical, like a new product that you can end up offering in the future, not only is it doable, but you're kind of enjoying the process, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've run programs about like service companies becoming product companies. Like how can you take your like domain expertise and build like a scalable product out of it? We I don't know if what we're building is like a scalable product. I think it's like too niche, but it's something that I think can really like productize the services that we currently deliver for sure, and just like efficiency gains. Make it better for our users. Like potentially attract future contracts. But also, like I said, I take this and I speak to like ecosystem builders. That's what we call ourselves these days. From like other countries, literally all around the world, like the government version of like the people we work with here in Scotland, and they're like, "Can we try this?" Like we want a version of this for our ecosystem, and it's like, well, okay, give me. It's not quite that ready yet, but like maybe in the future.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I love your thoughts about this, and I have a quote that you said. Let me correct me if I'm wrong, but the way you introduce your other meetup, right, the No Code Scott meetup, is that you said like building software is a privilege and empowering more people to do it is a good thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I stand by that quote. I was worried that you were going to find like, I don't know, like my old, like a tweet from like 2015.
yes, it's like
No.
2013. Here I have the quote. It's like, please don't.
Yeah, no, I
All right.
do. I do think that. Like, I think building software is a privilege in the same way that, like, reading and writing was once a privilege that only, a handful of people in society could do. Like, creating software is cool and interesting, and like it gets you ahead in life, right? And I think, no code has empowered more people to build software. No code plus AI, probably, there's even more coming. And I think, with that, like, this isn't obviously probably beyond the scope of this webinar, but we're empowering all of these people to build software, and now we need to kind of think about like teaching them best practice with it as well. Of like
Yeah.
I love like hearing from like nurses and like farmers and like you kind of people who have built their own like thing with like any of these tools, and they're so proud of it, and it's like I thought I had to pay someone £200,000 for an MVP. Turns out I could just build it myself. And it's just so heartening to see because they like understand the problems they're trying to solve. But with that, much like myself, with like my, I didn't know what RLS was. Like we need to
Mm-hmm.
educate about like security, about accessibility, about governance, and like how do you build like good software. So yeah, but I think it's cool that we're getting more people feeling like they have a seat at the table to build software.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with you. We're lowering the bar to entry to this amazing playground, which so far it was only for people who knew how to code. And you're true, like the bar is getting lower and lower. And us who are like in this very niche bubble, who are like, yeah, I'm an amazing developer and I can do this and this and this and complain about this and say good things about this, but we're not thinking, like you said, like about farmers and nurses, and like we need to think about them. Like now they can actually sit down and in their own businesses and try to solve small problems or big problems with these new tools and new workflows. Basically, I'm just super excited about like living in 2025, existing here right now. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
We have someone in the comments saying, "Can Ollie present it to us?" So your portal.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. So I'm going to do a slightly redacted version of it because we actually had a fairly major project. Sorry, this is like a bit boring and off to the side, but when we built this, because it was kind of an experiment, and it still is to an extent, we built it in like a separate database to our main database. We have our big main database, which is now in Superbase, and we actually built a separate like little secret one just to manage all of this. And this week we merged the two databases into one, which has been a huge project, as you could imagine, making sure everything works. And it was actually kind of painless. Shout out to Lewis and Dylan for making that happen. But like, you know, the problem is I don't actually have like a robust staging database to jump to. And like, so all of that is to say that I'm going to show you just like a slightly redacted version where you won't see all of the pages and things, but it'll give you an idea of what it is we're building.
Oh, of course.
And I'm
Fair
slightly
enough.
worried that I've like oversold it at this point, you know, where it's like,
Let
because
me.
it's work in progress. We're only a few months in, but yeah. Will I do you want to jump? Will I jump
Yeah,
over to my...
let me toggle it. Oh,
Cool.
and yeah, here we are.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we're looking at production right now. So hopefully this all kind of works. But yeah, so for those of you who have used like a community platform before, like, you know, I'm talking like the kinds like Mighty Networks or Circle, or I mean, I guess Discord to an extent. It's not far off that. But if I showed you on Mighty Networks and like the interface for it, you would like understand immediately how this is actually quite a lot better, if I do say so myself. You know, just in terms of clarity of one sort of, I guess, design principle we're trying to sort of adhere to is like maximum signal to noise. Like if you are logging in, being able to find the thing that you are looking for, you know, within 3 clicks. On the left-hand nav bar, like limiting this to only like 7 things at most, you know, because like if you're logging, so say you're not a mentor, you don't need to see the mentor hub, you know, or if you're not receiving mentorship right now, you don't need a logbook. If you're not on a course, you don't need a course, blah, blah, blah. So kind of the 2 things that everyone gets is the forum, which I won't show you because it's got like, you know, people posting personal stuff in there, but it's it's a very bog standard forum for now. So it's like, you know, you can post and you can reply in a thread. It's something I want to work on over the summer, is like, you know, making the tagging system in it a little bit better, or you know, making it so you can kind of filter by, you know, blah, blah, blah. Member directory, again, kind of straightforward member directory. Like here's a list of all the people, here's their interests, here's their, you know, where they're located, things like that. And just to be clear, right now, you know, although our community, like on, you know, on Mighty Networks and across our various things, is in the thousands of people, we've only got a few hundred people on here right now. Only the people who are currently doing one of these courses, because we're keeping it kind of small while we're kind of testing it out still, because we're only a few months in. But yeah, in the courses, so like, we have quite a simple method of delivering courses. Like I said previously, it was just Notion pages. You know, like here is a Notion page with a password, you know, and we'd give that to everyone. But there's a bunch of problems with that. Like people can just share passwords. You can't see when individuals have accessed materials, like when they've logged in. So we basically built this kind of in mind with like just copying Notion. This is like our playground one it's in production, but it's for the team to kind of mess around with. So we're basically, you can add modules, and I'll show you behind the scenes of this in a second because I'm a little bit proud of this. You know, you can add like modules which has like information, you know, videos, go through to the next one, blah, blah, blah. I was like very nervous because that looks so similar, but no, that is a different module to the first one. You've got like posts, you know, where you can kind of talk to people just within that cohort, so like private sections, and then the people who are on the cohort as well, like just their profiles. But the thing that I'm kind of proud of with this, do you know the reason we kind of built what I'm about to show you? Actually, I'll show you it first, and I'll tell you why we did it. So the team behind the scenes have this admin area where they can like manage courses, manage mentorship, users, and then we have like a tagging system, so like kind of everything is tagged. You know, is this a no-code event, or is it an AI event, or is it a health tech event, or whatever? But what I built behind the scenes, and this was when I was like first playing around with WeWeb, and I was like, okay, this is cool. So basically built like a kind of little CMS within WeWeb, and this is obviously going to not work because we're currently doing a live demo. Module test 5. This is something even like, you know, what I love about building our own tools is like, I built this thing and said like, what's the slug for it? And my team were like, what the hell is a slug? You know, so like you can actually just add in like hyper focused, like, you know, what is this thing for the team? And then so within here, can add in a section. This is basically just like softer. So you can just like, you know, or any of these kind of like, sorry, I'm underselling softer there, but you can add in like, you know, text blocks. You can add in like, you know, files and upload them. You know, I'm going to use this as a moment to actually like test it live in front of you to make sure it's all working. Yeah, good. You can add in, so my team were like, we really like this, but we really like the lines in Notion. So can you add a line in? And I was like, okay, cool. Here's a line for you.
Yes.
one, but it's like, here you go, Amelia, you asked for a line, so you can have it. And then like headings, and it's all kind of like, it's a bit clumsy, but I'll show you what it looks like in the kind of user-facing bit. If I go back to, actually, I'll show you
So
one more
far,
thing.
amazing. I
One
love
more
it.
thing here is like, you can drag and drop the modules to rearrange them, which took me far too long to actually figure out like the kind of like mechanism for making that work in the database. But and you can also like, you know, when I first built this, there was no concept of like a published or unpublished module. So I was like, the team asked for that, and I was like, okay, cool, easy. Did that in like, you know, 30 minutes, like create a new field in CodeBase, update it, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some really basic analytics. This won't show much for this because this is like a demo environment. But yeah, if I jump back to the thing and show you what we just built. So for, oh, not here. So for the, you know, people who are on the course, so the actual users who log in, I hope this works. Oh, my image isn't working. Classic live demo. It's fine. I'll add that to Asana. But even like, you know, it generates like in Notion, you can kind of click to a heading and it will take you. It's not going to show you because it's so short, but you can like scroll to a heading off the bit that's like generated at the top. So whenever you add headings in, you can see it like adds in a little kind of bit at the top, like a table of contents, and scrolls you to that bit. So yeah, that was the first thing we built. Like that was just at the start of the year. And now like the big thing we're working on is a way to manage our mentorship. So, oh, sorry. I was going to say, one of the reasons we did this like complex like content management system is because within rich text, you can't add alt text, which sounds like a small thing. It's like, for us, accessibility is super important. We want to make sure that everything we build is like accessible. So adding alt text to an image, yeah, that page could have just been a rich text with like videos and images embedded, I think. But it was like, actually, we're going to build this whole system basically just to add alt text in, and it gives us a lot more flexibility as well. But yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a supercharged LMS for your specific needs, basically.
And it's still pretty basic, you know, like, so that was like the first round, and like we're going to come back to it in the summer and say, right, okay, what's missing now? Like, let's keep adding features that the team need, you know. It could be like, maybe it's like tests or something like that, you know, like at the end of each module, or we're like, but we own this bit of software, you know, we can decide what features are added to it. That's the point, you know. We're not using some off-the-shelf LMS where it's like they tell us what the features are. Like, we're like, we'll build it, you know. And yeah, the mentorship thing is the thing I'm currently working on. This is going to launch like next week, where it's just basically, you know, if you're a mentor, you can log in and you get access to this mentor hub here. You know, you can see it. Sorry, this is obviously dummy text, but you can kind of see your sessions that you've had. And right now, again, this is like hundreds of Google Sheets. Like each mentee, each person being mentored gets their own Google Sheet that has all of the data in, and that's stored. So we have like hundreds of these things. Like comparing them is really difficult. Like, you know, it's all over the place. But this is now, you know, one place to store all of your data, basically. So if you're a mentee, you can log in and just see, like, you know, here is your most recent mentorship session. And in fact, I'm going on holiday next week, but when I come back, the final piece of the pie for this is we're building basically a sort of terrible version of Calendly, because a huge amount of work for the mentorship team here is actually manually booking in mentees and mentors. It's like these two people need to find time together to chat to each other, so they email backwards and forwards. So we've basically built a sort of version of Calendly. I don't think I can show you in production easily. Go to the mentor.
Wow, but you're basically thinking like, okay, we do this, right? What if? And then you go off a tangent and you start trying to build that. And that's what you said. It's quite powerful because it's your own tool, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and what I promised like the company is basically by around about this time we would have mentors. So our big pillars of like activity are our mentorship and programs, and we run events as well. But like that, we kind of like, that's kind of handled by Eventbrite, so it's like I don't need to worry about that. And I kind of promised the company by this time we would have like programs and mentorship kind of up and running. And there's still a bunch of tweaking for both of those. You know, it's never going to be finished, but you know, now that we've done that, the possibility for us to say like what's next is the cool bit for me. Like this is like actually just kind of straightforward community management tools that we've built. Now I'm like, what's unique to us and the way we deliver services? So like those international trips, how can we make that more seamless within this platform? Investor lookbooks, that's a thing like people do on the site right now, where it's like people give us their deck, we send it to a bunch of investors, but we kind of need a portal to like hide it behind, and like only investors can see it. So imagine on the left-hand side, if you're currently raising investment, here's a link to, update your deck. Investors get a login, can see that. And kind of there's like, what, and then it's like, what next? I'm like a kid in the candy shop, I'm just like, there's so many features we can do to make life better for us. I can show you actually, if I can jump tab very quickly.
Yeah, let me actually, I'm gonna hide your screen, and then you let me know when I can show it back again, basically.
Okay.
And then you're...
Yeah. So I'm actually, okay, share this tab instead. Is that changed for you?
Yeah, do you want me to show it to everyone?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can see the events. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see, events in the last 12 months. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, like this is like something that people have been doing manually. Again, there's like loads of spreadsheets for this, to try and track all of this data. We have like loads of different regions that we do stuff in, loads of different types of events. And I was like, as of Monday, when we merged our databases, WeWeb now has access to all of our event data. So we have like 1,500 events in here, and maybe 20,000 event attendees registered. We track every single registration. So we've got like tons of data in here, and the team need to kind of sit down and like, basically turn it into like a nice deck every month. And I'm like, well, if we have that data, like, can we not just make like a kind of filterable little dashboard where it's like in central Scotland, how many, let's say in Edinburgh, how many public meetups did we have? But then like what's kind of cool and interesting to me, because I'm a loser, is that this also highlights like actually like data like truth behind the scenes. Because if I was to click on this view all events button at the top right, it would basically show you like a list of all of our events, like every event, like in a kind of data grid format. And it shows you very quickly actually that there's some data in there that needs cleaned up. They don't have attendees added to it. They don't have, because it's in a spreadsheet somewhere, they don't have a label for the type of event, or that kind of stuff. And what I think my summer project is basically creating dashboards for the events team, for the programs team, for whoever needs them, the mentorship team, but also exposing enough of the database to them so they understand like, here's the bit you have to update. Here's like where you add attendees and things like that. So we stop sharing that just for a second. Sorry.
Wait 1 second. There we go.
Thank you. Sorry. I might jump to something else, but I probably not. But yeah, for me, like, again, that's so much work. I can't tell you how much work goes into making like Google Docs that turn into like a deck, Google Slides or whatever, and then we send it off to the government, and we send it off to our partners. And now, like, if we can give the team access to the data that they need to keep updated in one place, one source of truth, as well as give them the dashboards, like the graphs, and say, hey, oh, do you want it like a different color, or do you want it to show different data? Like, just tell me what you want, and WeWeb's AI will build it for us.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. And are you at the point where you're able to show those dashboards to your clients and partners?
Not yet, because the problem I want to get first is like the so I'm imagining like partners will be like a role in the database where they log in and they get like basically like a completely different experience to everyone else. If like it's just like report type stuff. But before we do that, we would need to make sure the data is like right, it's correct. Like we need to, and that's both in terms of one of my colleagues is working on our data pipeline right now of like understanding when someone signs up to an event, how does that affect things? Or when someone signs up to a program, because the last thing in the world we want to do is give someone a dashboard and then like the data to be wrong in it. So it's a combination of making the dashboard but also like data cleanliness. So that's kind of a project for the summer for me.
Yeah. And how many people are working with WeWeb directly?
1.5, I would say. It's It's mostly me, to be honest. Like I feel like if you were to look at your like I don't know most active users, like I might be near the top. I don't know. But like so there are two like software engineers in the company, and then a bunch of people who work on like our data stuff, and sort of, but kind of from I would describe them as being from non-technical backgrounds. So like myself, so I work on it pretty much exclusively, but several of the team have like picked it up and built stuff with it, and like are very good at like bug fixing, especially if it's like a problem connected to the database. Like they'll pick it up and they can intuitively find like, okay, here is the workflow that triggers the edge function that does
Yeah.
this, and they can be like, okay, that needs changed here. So it was I went on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and like there were some issues like that. Obviously, as soon as I go on holiday, like 10 support tickets come in from the community. And then my team just fixed it, and they logged into WeWeb, they confidently pushed changes to production, and I was like, that's cool, because it can be quite
Wow.
intimidating.
And was there a time where you sat down with them and you taught them the tool? How did they manage?
I've done it with like not formally, but I've done it with them like kind of informally if they're interested. I'm always happy to kind of sit down and be like, here's a thing, but I generally will send them away with like a challenge. Of like, okay, go and build this now, and we can make like a little sandbox for them. That's actually sort of one thing I really like about WeWeb is I quite often use Airtable to like sandbox ideas. So I'll connect up an Airtable because I don't want to mess around with our main database because I'm not like trained enough. I could break stuff very easily. So I'll make like an Airtable to say like, here's a new feature I want to do, and I'll link up WeWeb to that, and then I'll send that Airtable to the engineers and say, what can you build with that? But so we make a sandbox for people to learn on. But it was really cool. Like one of my colleagues, Billy, who's a designer, he picked it up almost straight away, and he built like a design system which we don't have right now. You can probably tell. And he like sat down and made like one page that was like buttons, padding on like forms and stuff like that. And I was like, this is cool. This looks good. So yeah.
So it is a tool that design like WeWeb. The way I see that you're explaining is a tool that designers can come in and design stuff because it's similar to Webflow, right? So you can just drag and drop and do stuff and build beautiful stuff. But also your engineers, when you were out in the having your holiday, of course, that's when issues happen, and they could just figure it out somewhat intuitively, and fix a couple of things. Because at the end of the day, like those guys who are like true engineers, they look at code every single day, and like once they see like a workflow screen, I think like they're in their heads gonna be like, what is this? How it's like
no, they're pretty cool with that. Like we were using Retool a lot before we had WeWeb. We still have some stuff running through Retool, like so they're interested, they get it. Like I think I've had like, I don't know, just people being a bit sort of, I don't know, rude about no code from the software engineering community. Sometimes I think some software engineers, people are people, right? It's just how it is. And it's like the guys I work with are like, they get the value of it for sure. They're very happy to work with it.
That's awesome. And I don't know if I want to go into this tangent, but basically, can you give me your honest opinion on where do you think we're going with the AI plus no code plus code? And because you are in touch with people, not only in your business, but running with startups, and you see how people are building things in real life, right? How do you where do you see us going?
I don't know. So in terms of like software development, I guess it's you have to take everything I say with like a pinch of salt because I'm not a software engineer, so like but I guess for me, I swing quite wildly on this, like depending on the day of the week or my mood, but like it's really hard not to see the potential of AI plus no code, expanding software engineering to even more people, right? Like so those charts that I showed you, that actually required a significant chunk of JavaScript to make work. Did I write it? No, I didn't. The WeWeb's AI, wrote the JavaScript for me. And it's working. I manually went through and checked and said, right, is this the right number of events for this thing? And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, good. And same for back when we were using AWS, I asked ChatGPT to write queries like SQL queries for me all the time, and it was just like, it's for simple stuff like that. It's again given me like, I don't need to go and like take a ticket from the engineering team and say like, could you please build this edge function or build this whatever for me. And I do think like I think the sort of stuff like Lovable or whatever, where it's like just build it's so impressive for like the first 5 minutes, and then for me again, like if I'm trying to like build a website, build an app, like I would build something with Lovable, and then I would get stuck because I can't code. Like after the first 80% is done, I can't change anything, But then I think it's really cool if tools like WeWeb and Webflow also have that functionality, which you do. The AI builder is great, where it's like, for me, I wanted to build my wife a new website for her business, and I tried it in Lovable, and then it was really impressive. Everyone's seen it. It's amazing, And then I was like, okay, I need to edit the HTML and CSS, and I was like, I can't do that. I don't know how, and I don't want to just talk to it. But then I did it in Webflow because it's a website, horses for courses. It's my choice for building websites, and it just builds the site in 5 minutes. Well, with a bit of tweaking, and I can tweak it all because I understand that interface because it's more intuitive to me. It's just,
I agree.
It's just going to let more people build, and with that, comes all of the stuff I was saying earlier of like, how can we support those people better to understand, things like security, governance, accessibility. Like if we've got half of the world building their own software, like how can we make sure that software is good,
Yeah, I agree with you. So talking about supporting people, do you want to tell us a little bit about no code Scott?
Yeah. I actually, yeah. I kind of started this, I actually ran like a mini conference like a few years ago. And it was during COVID or like the end of COVID. So we kept it to like 60 people. And I was like, I just want to like get some no code people together in a room and like talk to them and hear from them. And off the back of that, it's just like, can I just like keep this energy up somehow? And so, I mean, pretty much every month, minimum for the last few years, I've done like an IRL meetup, where like we come together, we either, we have drinks and pizza, we hear a couple of talks, or we have a workshop, and we just kind of learn from each other. And it's not big, it's like between like 20 and 40 people every month. But I kind of prefer that. I would always rather have like a smaller group, and also it's just me. So when you're like trying to make sure the projector is working and like make sure the pizza's out and like
yes, you're back to your 10 years ago when you were kind of doing everything for CodeBase. 100%. Now it's you.
Yeah. And I personally, I love that, right? But you reach a point where it's like unsustainable for like, you just do too much. So yeah, it's I do it, like because I just enjoy it. Like I have no ulterior motive. I don't have like a no code agency. I don't sell my services or whatever. Like I just do it because it's fun and cool to get into a room with people and like hear about what they've built and like, build stuff together. So I love it. And I try to, I was going to say I've not updated the events for a while on there. So
this is just a showcase for those of you who are watching, because he's doing some amazing work. I think these are the times where we shine, when we are off work, and when our families give us the time to do a little bit of work here and there, we build amazing stuff and we support our communities. And I think what you did here is it's awesome. And 40 people, that's a lot. And you run at least one of these a month. That's amazing. I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm gonna ask you to do one for teaching WeWeb.
Yeah, I'd love to. I gave a talk about WeWeb a few months ago actually, and it went down really well. And it was cool because I met like some people who are also building with WeWeb in Scotland, because I honestly thought like it was just me kind of thing. And like there's actually an agency, so Farsight, one of the people there, they build with WeWeb as well. And for me, it's like that question you had about like who builds with WeWeb in the company. It is mostly just me. So like, what happens if something happens to me? What if I'm unavailable? So it's good to know like we have local agencies who can help with that, or if some work needs done and I can't do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's I see it as more of like a social activity than like a work activity, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, for sure. Ollie, I think you're an amazing person, and you're doing all of this while having two daughters. You said that's commendable. And basically, so guys, Yeah, it's like everyone with putting makeup
Yeah,
under our eyes.
yeah.
So thank you, Ollie, for being here with us and sharing your amazing project and your experience, and I think showcasing that everyone can start building something amazing. Like the barrier for entry is getting lower and lower, and as soon as you start, you're gonna go crazy like Ollie and start like building Lego bricks on top of it, and it is. I think it is an amazing that you're able to do that, right?
True,
And
I totally agree. Like, yeah, the thing I'm trying to do with my meetups is like I'm trying to have it less and less where it's like watching someone give a talk, and more like a like everyone sitting around a table with their laptops out. You know, like getting people started, getting them doing that very, very first thing. That's the trick. They need to have that moment where they're like, I can do this. I can build software too, you know? So yeah.
Matthew saying super cool. Cheers, Ollie.
Oh, hey, Matthew.
And so yeah, Ollie, where can people find more about you besides No Code Scott? Do you think I can share your socials? Where can people?
I'm a LinkedIn person these days. I do technically have a Twitter account still, but it's pretty offline. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best forever. If anyone wants to chat about this stuff, like just give you a shout. Like
Yeah.
so
Do you mind if I share your LinkedIn
yeah, go
link?
for it. Yeah,
I'm
go for it.
gonna put it in the comments, and then I'm gonna show it here. Yeah, I the URL is a little bit wrong, but there it is. Ollie Littlejohn.
That is me. Yeah, cool.
Ollie, thank you so much for taking the time to talking with us. I can't wait to sit down with you in 1 year. And like, I don't know, are you gonna be building the next Circle Mighty Networks contender? And I don't know. And I
Maybe.
hope you can bring your events to Brazil as well. No Code Americas.
Yeah, for sure. I would. Yeah, I'll take that on the road for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. Like, it's just been so nice to like talk about this stuff, and hopefully, it's interesting to the people watching as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was. It was for me, and then I think it's awesome. Thank you, Ollie, once again. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Feel free to reach out to us and reach out to Ollie if you want to talk more about it. And guys, just keep building. We can all together build a lot of amazing things, just like Ollie showed us. Thank you, guys. Have a nice afternoon.
Cheerio.